I'm no good, dear, without you. Take my lips, I want to lose them.
We see right now there's lots of division, lots of arguments, lots of issues, and I think that has to do with the change that's coming. If you think about it, a few years ago, everyone was so politically correct, and I'm not gonna offend this person or this person, and now we start seeing butting heads. It's kind of like when you're getting in shape, right? When you're not in shape, you're like, right? And then it's tough, and then it starts getting easier and easier. And so that's what I think, as Americans are starting to go through. We're in that tough phase right now where these conversations are important and the understanding is important. And then hopefully someday it's gonna get to a point where it's just normal.
Can I ask you two ladies a question? How do you feel about African American? As I tell people, I said, I just think people found a way to try to make it sound better, because I don't find me saying I'm a black person offensive. So I've never had a chance to ask another black person, how do you feel when someone says African American?
That's a really good question, because I'll be totally honest with you. It's something that I struggle with, because people say African American or it's on a form and I have to check it. And I have never been to Africa. I wouldn't even know where in Africa my people are from. Now I can do 23andMe or Ancestry.com or whatever, but it's going to give me this broad region. I'm probably still not going to know where I'm from. There's a program on Epix right now called Enslaved, and Samuel L. Jackson has, traced back his roots, and he's welcomed into this African society, African tribe. And they're so happy to find that he's Gabon, and they welcome him. And I'm not some famous actor, so it's probably not going to be really specific for me. They're probably not going to have this big, beautiful ceremony when they find out that I'm Singhalese or whatever I am. And they're probably not going to go, oh, here she comes, she's here. I'm just an ordinary person. So I haven't made that effort to find out where I'm from. I probably will at some point. But to call myself African American, what if my family never came from Africa? What if obviously originally they had to, but what if I don't know where? And so I refer to myself as black. I've always used black. Maybe if I trace my roots and can pinpoint where I'm from, I can have some pride in coming from a certain region and then feel comfortable calling myself whatever I am. But until then, there's also something really strange, unfortunately, that goes on with African people from Africa. And if I am Nigerian or Ghanaian or live in that region and I come to America, I don't have the same relationship with black people. And so Africans don't necessarily like us Americans calling ourselves African Americans either. They're like, no, we are the original Africans. You are not. You don't even know where you come from. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I just stick with black, which I won't say that I don't like African American. I just don't think that it's accurate for me because I don't know.
See, and I'm asking because I think we've turned even black into being offensive. And I don't think it's offensive. Coming out of someone who's racist, it may sound offensive, but out of most people, I'm like, I'm a black man. What do you want me to tell you? And I don't find that offensive because that's how I was identified as I was going. I was a little black boy. Yeah. I became he's a black young man.
Yeah. Especially now when, and I won't get political here, but especially when our current administration is working so hard to make certain movements like Black Lives Matter look like a negative, there's a negative connotation to black. And that's the way the majority of us identified or identify. And so to simply be saying that our lives matter, just that's so basic. We're not even saying, hey, I want laws changed, and I want you to stop redlining in real estate, and I want you to stop saying things like race card, because there is no race card. This is our life we're talking about. We're not even saying all that stuff. We're just saying, hey, we want to matter. We want a seat at the table. And that somehow is so offensive to some people. And so I think that more and more you're going to see, as this division grows, you're going to see people trying to push the agenda that Black is bad. And that's part of the reason why I'm going to continue to identify it, to show, no, that's not true. Black is many things, but Black is not bad. It's not derogatory. And so that's part of the reason why it's important to me to still identify as Black and not African American.
Yeah, my parents are from Texas and Georgia. That's where I know that I'm from. So, I don't mind either or, but I do understand people that are from African countries look at us a little bit differently. We're kind of looked down at even by other people that share the same skin color as we do. So there's, and I know in the Asian community, darker is not the best, in the Indian community, and same thing, right? And so we are all just people at the end of the day, and so we have to just keep pushing and keep figuring out. I think my brother does these talks with people in his community. They live in Minnesota. My parents live downtown, maybe 3 blocks away from where George Floyd was murdered. Oh, wow. So they're right there in the thick of things. And so someone, I forget I have to find the quote, but basically they said, until other races or other people start fighting for us and it matters to them, we're going to still see this division. So others have to start sticking up for us, because we've been trying, but, a few people, 5 white people out of 100 is not going to do it. We have to continue to grow and learn from each other.
It's crazy how caring about other human beings has become political. It's ridiculous. Like you said, it's such a simple statement. They just want to have it. They're not asking for this, they're asking for this. Yeah. It's like right now there's white people up here, Black people down here, and you just want equal treatment, right? And for some reason that's too much to ask for, which is crazy I can't even comprehend how that could seem like too much to anyone. But everything, even wearing a mask has become political. Caring about the person sitting next to you, not wanting them to get sick, has become something that it's become right and left, which nobody's trying to come together anymore, which is, like you said, is going to further this. It's going to further the issue. So.
Yeah, I think that one thing I kind of wanted to come full circle on was your question on what does it mean to be Black, because that was something that no one has ever asked that to me, and I sat there and I thought for a while, and I was like, what does that mean? You know what I mean? And to connect that to the the power of dialogue, and just in our conversation, how we were able to address where that came from and productively relabel kind of what it meant to be Black, or just address what it is right now, So I think that something that's super important for students at LG, at Saratoga, in our education system, is to have active conversations about that, in which we are asked questions that may be uncomfortable or that we don't think about a lot, because I think that in order to break down those stereotypes, those labels, those negative connotations, is through productive dialogue and through talking through things and creating opinions based off that conversation.
Definitely. I think that's key. And I think, like I said earlier, for that to be happening here on this level, at this stage in your lives, it's going to change everything for you. The fact that you all are even aware. There are so many people at your age, or at your class level that are just like, doesn't apply to me. I don't have a problem with this, therefore I have no responsibility towards it. But you all are here and you want to see change, and you're the change agents. You're the ones that can help make this better. And it's your job to cast a really wide net and go recruit people and find other people and have those conversations with them. And then they go out and find other people and have those conversations. And it's the only way we're going to change any of it.
I mean, it makes me proud to sit here with you guys, because I can tell you right now, Kevina and I graduated the same year. We weren't doing this. Not even close. It's not that we didn't care. It's just the issues weren't as great at the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, that's not saying that black men weren't being shot by the police or beat up by the police or racist groups or anything like that. It just wasn't prevalent, during the time that we were going to school. Again, I think in my circle I had Puerto Ricans, white, Asian, everything. It was like 15 of us that sat at a table, and I don't think we cared what anybody looked like.
Right.
We just all hung out together because this is the group that we wanted to be around. And race was never an issue. So I commend you guys for taking this task on, because I don't know how I would have really reacted to this when I was in high school. I probably would have been one of those kids like, I don't care. I don't want to talk about this.
I'd be like, that's too much. There's no way.
So you guys you keep doing what you're doing and just keep asking questions and keep challenging people, keep challenging your peers, keep challenging us as adults, and things will start changing.
Why are we moving backwards? That's my question.
I think it's the prevalence of social media and media in general, because I think, like you're saying, these things have been happening, but if there's a shooting in Sacramento, right? I live in San Jose. I don't know about it because there's no social media. There's no, everyone has a phone in their hand now. So if something's happening, we see it more often now in media. I don't think that it's gotten particularly worse or better, to be honest. That's just my own opinion. But it's so we can see it. Everyone can see it. Everyone has access to it. And I think that's the biggest difference right now.
That definitely makes sense. Yeah, it's not better or worse. It's just broadcasting.
Yeah, it's just more.
Yeah.
I mean, the phone is the phone is exploiting more people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think a turning point was the Rodney King riots, which obviously was before y'all were even born. But I think that was the first time that these acts were caught on camera.
Okay.
And when that footage was shown on television, I think we all went, finally, finally things are going to change, because they've been out here killing black men since the beginning of time, but now the world sees it. There it is on TV. Woo, finally. And they all went free. Nobody was persecuted in that case.
They were angry.
And there was a huge uproar, and still nothing changed.
I think also it has to do with the management up top. If you work at a job and your manager has a certain culture, right? And they allow things to happen, more and more people start coming out and doing that. It's like drinking at work. If your manager's drinking at work, you start bringing alcohol to work as well, and you think that it's okay to speak a certain way or do a certain way. And so right now in our country, we have hateful rhetoric that's happening up top. Mm-hmm. So now the people are coming out of the woodwork like, I feel that way too. And so people are becoming more vocal about their racism, basically. And they think it's okay because it's happening from the top.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that our commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, can use a term like Kung Flu, and nobody does anything. He's still president. He's still leading the country, and somehow that's okay. That really speaks to where we are.
It really does, doesn't it?
It does. It tells volumes when somebody at that level, leading the country, is able to get away with that type of rhetoric. We're in trouble, but y'all are our future. You'll help make laws and you'll help change policy, and that's what's got to happen. People have to. Never, ever, ever in the history of this country has it been so important to vote. Never. I mean, the democracy is on the line. We're at the crux of this whole thing crumbling if we endure another 4 years of that type of rhetoric.
Yeah.
Because that's not okay.
Yeah, I definitely believe that our leader is the person who is leading us backwards. So.
To go off of what Ms. Harris said about, leading from the top, I think the change in the classroom we can't expect it to start entirely from the students. I do think it has to start with the teachers actively shutting things down when they see them and actively teaching anti-racist ideals. I've talked about this with many people. I don't think we can expect students to be any better if they're not being taught by their teachers to be better. We go to school for 8 hours a day. Well, not anymore. But when we're at school, we are at school for 8 hours a day. And, I don't think the one class that I ever talked about race in was my English class because we were reading To Kill a Mockingbird. But even then, my teacher was white, and he very much was trying to be politically correct. Mm-hmm. And we didn't even get into many conversations about it at all because I did not the reality is most of my class was also white. Mm-hmm. So nobody wanted to say the wrong thing, And
in terms is the right thing is to speak up if something's bothering you.
Exactly. Yeah. So, it has to, at some point, we have to start asking, what can we do to make the teachers feel more comfortable having these conversations in the classroom?
And I think that goes to just speaking up and saying, I mean, I would start, let's just say it's Mr. Cook, and I was a young man, I would just ask, can I talk to you after class is over? I would start there first with a simple conversation between myself and the teacher. Because at some point, I don't know if everyone's on board. But if I put a little bird in his ear, maybe he'll bring up the subject, hey, let's talk about something else today. Because again, it's going back, if I speak out, am I going to be ridiculed by the whole class?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I start somewhere. I find a starting point, and I think the starting point, if you're saying, the teachers need to talk to us about these things, is you start with the teacher, and you got to find out what their comfort level is.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the lack of representation also, though. If we have all white teachers or white and Asian teachers, of course we're not going to talk about black culture. I mean, what reason would they do that? And it's unfortunate that we have these bubbles or systems where we have, I think, less than 2% black people. I can count on my hand how many black staff members we have. So, you know what I mean? So if you don't have the representation there, how do you start the conversations? That's what you're talking about, starting from the top. So we have to start finding more, I'm on a black nerd group on Facebook, and today one of the topics was just put your education, tell us what, degrees you have. And no joke, I went through maybe 200 plus of them just because I was so fascinated. And how many people have PhDs, masters, double bachelors, all of this stuff. And so I think the Wells Fargo CEO said that he's having difficulty finding black people to fill these roles. And I'm looking on just this news feed, and I see hundreds of people that are capable and that could help with the change, but people are so stuck, or systems are so stuck in their ways that they're afraid to kind of step out and say, for instance, again, my mom's school, there was a principal that thought that he was going to get the job, and so that school had to make the decision to say, hey, we want change in our community. I think that this person's going to provide that change for us. And so all of our systems have to start doing that in order for it to trickle down into our students.
I also think, it's the job administration and us as educators. Like if you are doing a module on To Kill a Mockingbird and you don't feel comfortable having those conversations, there are tons of diversity agencies that are willing to come into your schools and help have conversations. So if you don't feel like you have everything that you need in order to make that conversation or that class or that lesson fruitful, ask for help. You know, go to your principal and say, is it okay if I have this person come in on Friday and we're reading To Kill a Mockingbird and they're going to talk about, you know, race and, you know, whatever. And then, you know, the principal of that school says, yes, that would be great. Can we make it even bigger? Let's have an assembly or whatever, you know, but until we as educators say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this, can I get some support? Then that's a missed opportunity to read that book and not talk about the Black experience because you're not Black and nobody in your class is Black. You need to go outside. You know, you need to go outside of your classroom and see what other tools you can gather or what people you can get to come and help you with that assignment. So.
All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good, dear, without you? Take my lips, I want to lose